Okay friends, to get started, the first thing we're going to do is remove our radiator cap. There we are. Now the next thing we want to do is have a nice collection bucket underneath the passenger side wheel well, essentially in this area. We're going to come right up to this right here, and you can see I already have my pliers on the petcock. That's going to be the drain for the radiator. Let's go ahead and turn that counterclockwise and remove it. There we are. Let's let that drain into the bucket. Okay friends, to get to this, what we're going to have to do is remove this aspect right along here. To do that, I want to of course disconnect any electrical connector that we see. Let's disconnect our mass airflow sensor. Inspect the wiring, make sure you don't see any funny colors. Assuming it looks good, go ahead and set it aside. We'll go ahead and disconnect the air temp sensor. And then if you look down along here, you're going to see that you have a little clip that's holding onto a wiring harness. You can either pull the clip right out of this, or of course you can just disconnect the harness itself. Now we're going to come right here and loosen up this clamp. We'll just give this a nice wiggle and separate the two. Now let's move along to this area right here. Remove this wing nut. Let's go ahead and grab onto this, give it a nice wiggle. There we are. Got a little hose right here. Draw that off. We'll set this aside. Okay, so now we have a complete view of our upper radiator hose. Let's continue on by removing our clamps. I'm going to start with the one that leads to the radiator. Slide that right down the hose. Go ahead and grab onto the hose, give it a nice wiggle, and take it right off of the radiator. Perfect. Now follow the hose down along to this area. You're going to find another clamp where it connects onto the engine. I'm just going to use a nice hose pick and just work my way around it. This is going to help break it free. All right, now you just want to be very careful with it because it's probably still going to have some coolant in it. Now that the hose is off, the next thing we want to pay attention to is the thermostat housing tube right here. If it looks like ours does, where it's all full of crud, go ahead and clean this off so it's nice and smooth. Now it's going to be time to put in our new upper radiator hose. Let's make sure that our clamps are transferred over. Slide it right on there until it bottoms out. We've got our clamp already sitting on here. Go ahead and slide the hose onto the radiator until it bottoms out with the radiator. Now we'll put the clamp up on here. There we are. Make sure it's not hanging off the hose like it was before. Okay, get this lined up. All right, let's get this inlet tube back on here. I'm just gonna come right over to this area. You're gonna notice you have the little hooky doos. They need to go right underneath the throttle body. Put this. Slide it under, and then roll it over. Go ahead and put on your wing nut. Snug it right up. Give this a nice wiggle. You want to make sure that this is secure. If it's not, you might get unmetered and unfiltered air inside of your engine. Let's get this back on here. And then of course we have our wiring. This back inside of its clip. Now we've got the rest of this over here. Connecting that air temp sensor, mass airflow sensor. And then of course make sure that the wiring's nice and secured inside of its area here. Now let's put this on. You're going to notice that this area has two layers. You essentially want to make sure that the plastic goes in between the center. Okay. Carefully grab onto this, bring it so it's bottomed out, and now we'll snug up the clamp. Okay friends, now it's going to be time to fill our cooling system. There's going to be a couple different ways you can do this, either with a vacuum system that looks like this, assuming you have compressed air to put onto it. If not, just use a funnel that looks like this. That way there you can burp out any air that's in the system as we fill. The coolant that you're going to use to fill this would be DexCool coolant. For me personally, I'm going to use universal coolant, which works for every type of coolant. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start up the truck. Something that we want to pay attention to is our heat gauge over here. I want to go ahead and turn this all the way to the hot position. I'm going to put this on level 4. And then of course we'll turn this. I'm gonna put it on feet, but you can put it pretty much anywhere aside from on AC or defrost. All right, so I just ran the vehicle until it's nice and hot. I had no more air bubbles coming out of here, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this off. Now the next thing I wanna pay attention to is the coolant reservoir over here. You wanna of course open this up, and then you wanna remove as much coolant from inside there as possible. If it looks like there's debris, you need to clean it out. Aside from that, the next thing I'm gonna do is just go ahead and lift this up, bring it over here, and I'm gonna fill up my reservoir with brand new coolant. Take this off of here, and of course, put on your radiator cap. Okay, now all you have to do is go ahead and take it for a road test.